There are musicians who play guitar. And then there are musicians who are the guitar. Men whose fingers seem fused to the fretboard, whose whole identity runs on power chords and raw, relentless thunder. Phil Campbell was the second kind. And on March 13, 2026, the world of rock and metal lost one of its most irreplaceable souls. Philip Anthony Campbell passed away peacefully, following a long and courageous battle in intensive care after a complex major operation. He was 64 years old. The news arrived on Saturday morning, posted quietly to the social media page of his band, a gut punch that reverberated through every corner of the metal world. Fans, fellow musicians, and legends alike stopped cold, because this wasn't just the death of a guitarist. This was the closing of a chapter that began over 4 decades ago in a small Welsh town and echoed all the way to sold-out stadiums across the globe. Philip Anthony Campbell was born on May 7, 1961, in Pontypridd, Wales. He first picked up a guitar at just 10 years old, inspired by legends like Jimi Hendrix, Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath, and Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. By 12, he was already chasing greatness, literally meeting Lemmy Kilmister after a Hawkwind gig and asking for his autograph. He couldn't have known then that the man he was admiring would one day become his bandmate, his creative partner, and one of his closest friends. His breakthrough came in 1984, when Motörhead auditioned guitarists to replace the departing Brian Robertson. Campbell secured a position and never looked back. For 31 consecutive years, he delivered the thunderous riffs that made Motörhead one of the loudest, most uncompromising bands on the planet. He was Motörhead's longest-serving member aside from Lemmy himself, a fact that speaks volumes about his loyalty, his talent, and his unshakable dedication to the band's sound. Tracks like Ace of Spades, Overkill, and We Are Motörhead carry his fingerprints on every note. He wasn't a showy guitarist chasing the spotlight. He served the song. Every riff, every solo, every chord was built to make the music heavier, rawer, and more alive. When Lemmy Kilmister died in December 2015 and Motörhead disbanded, many wondered what would come next for Phil Campbell. The answer was both simple and beautiful. He formed Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons alongside his own children, Todd, Dane, and Tyler, releasing for albums and touring as an opening act for legendary bands like Guns N' Roses, Hawkwind, and Saxon. He even released his first solo album in 2019, Old Lions Still Roar, featuring guest vocals from icons like Alice Cooper, Rob Halford, and Dee Snider. Phil Campbell wasn't finished. Not even close. But in February of 2026, warning signs appeared. The Bastard Sons canceled a planned tour of Australia after Phil received urgent medical advice, with a statement simply reading, "Phil's health will always be our #1 priority." Fans hoped, they held their breath. And then, on a quiet Friday night, came the news no one wanted to hear. His family described him as a devoted husband, a wonderful father, and a proud and loving grandfather, known affectionately to his grandchildren as Bampy. At the time of his death, he was still at work on new music, collaborating with a singer from the hard rock band Fury. Even at the very end, the music kept calling him forward. The tributes poured in fast and hard. Motörhead drummer Mickey D called him the funniest guy he had ever known and the best rock guitar player he had ever played with, noting that together they wrote 12 studio albums, and that Phil never stopped surprising him with his extreme talent. Motörhead's official statement declared that Phil had Motörhead in his veins, that he led with his gifted guitar, that he carried a great sense of humor, but most of all, that Phil led with his heart, and that the world has just lost an enormous beam of light, from a young boy in Pontypridd asking a rock star for his autograph to becoming one himself, from 31 years shaking arenas with Lemmy to passing the torch to his own sons with love and laughter. Phil Campbell lived a life that most musicians only dream about. The amplifiers may be silent now, but those riffs, those songs, that thunder, that never dies. Rest easy, Phil. You played it louder than most, and you played it with your whole heart.